Hey everybody, welcome back aboard the Earthmote. I'm Randall. Today we are over at the computer because we are going to be taking a look at a web-based application known as Dungeon Scrawl. It's a free program that you can use to make really nice looking maps for your different dungeons as you're running your games. I've used it a few times to make out my own custom maps that I need, and you can do them relatively quick in a few minutes, or you can spend a lot of time on them, adding a bunch of detail and, making out mega dungeons if that's what you'd like. So today we're going to take a look at it and get a general sense of how to use Dungeon Scrawl. Hopefully you can check it out on your own and build your own map. Before we dive into it, I just want to say that I am not affiliated with the creators of Dungeon Scrawl or Roll20 in any way. They haven't paid me to do this. I just liked the program and I thought it was worth sharing. Let's get into it. You'll pull up the website. I've included the link in the description down below, and you'll see a sort of pop-up menu like this where you can create a new map. There is a pro version of the software. I don't have it. I've never used it, but I believe it lets you save your maps automatically into the cloud, which seems useful. But you can also save your map files locally, and then if you want to continue to work on them, you could open your save file there. But we're going to just create a new one, so we're going to click on that. So here we are on a new blank map. When you hit create new map, you'll see something like this. We're going to walk through quickly these different panels that you have access to. Over on the right, you can see here's where you have your maps. You can give your map a name. We'll call it example. These are pro features. You can add more maps to a single save file if you'd like, but that's a pro option where you have to pay for, as well as importing from a save file, where that is to add to this layer. So you have multiple maps. You can import for free, but only a single map, not an active one that you have. Going here, we have layers. So if you're familiar with photo editing softwares like Photoshop or GIMP, you're probably familiar with layers where you can create different layers to kind of add different effects and have these sort of things kind of stack on top of one another. Our map comes with 3 default ones: the background, our dungeon layer, where we can draw things. I'm going to throw one down just so we can see some of the changes that we make as we go. And then images, where you can drop these different tokens onto your map to represent things like statues or treasure chests, traps, things like that. Those are going to show up on your images layer. Okay, so looking at the background quickly, the main features you can toggle here is, do you want it to be like an isometric map? You can see here it switches, or dimetric. For me, I just like top down. You can change the grid type away from square to maybe a hex if you'd rather do that. And then for variants on the outside here, you can see we currently have dots. If you like lines, you can switch it to that. The dungeon layer is going to let you change a few different things. A lot of it has to do with your coloring and all that. I don't touch that because we're going to use these presets over here. But if you want to mess with that to kind of change it up, go ahead and do that. Going over to the left-hand side here, we can apply different presets. So you can either select it to create a whole new dungeon layer or apply it to your current layer. Having different formats across layers, to me, I haven't found a good use case for that. But if that's something you'd like to experiment and try with, go ahead. So I'm just going to apply these to the current layer. So I kind of like this black and white one, so I'm going to stick with that. You could use the old school blue and white TSR, play around with them and see what makes sense to you. Next, I'd like to direct your attention to the kind of bottom center here where we have this toolbar, and also off to the bottom left window pane here where we have the options for the different tools that we can select from this bottom center toolbar. So currently we have the rectangle tool selected, and you can see the rectangle tool options over here. As you can see here, you can draw rectangles, which is great. They can conjoin with ones you've already built, or you can have them kind of come up separate with a wall or off on their own. It doesn't matter. It's a blank canvas for you to build off of. But over on the options, so you can draw or you can do erasing. So if you don't like that, we can get rid of it. If I turn snapping off, that means it's not going to snap to these grids that we have, these cubes. So if I draw something like that, you'll see how it's sort of half in these different squares. Not something I particularly like, but maybe it is useful for your use case. So I'm going to turn that back on for me. And then division here means it will always connect to one cell. So 1 out of 1 means one cell. If I switch that to something else like 1 out of 2, that means I can do those half cells again, kind of like the non-snapping. Again, depending on your use case, you may need it. And then lastly, we have the rough option. So if I make a new grid here, say I make a new room here, once I click it, you notice that the room doesn't immediately appear. I have the option to make it rough looking, so a little bit more natural-esque. The further out you drag, the wilder your roughness is going to be. So if I take it all the way out here, my rectangle is now pretty rough. It's a nice way to make some different caverns if you'd like. Continuing along the toolbar, so pan tool is exactly what it seems like. You can move this around. For the object tool, we need to have different images down. So if we switch from layers over to images, there are lots of different images we can add into our map. So maybe we want a secret treasure thing here. You can either make it bigger if you'd like. I'll just leave it, we'll do 2 by 2. And then you'll notice immediately the object tool is selected, right? So I can move it where I would like. You can set the snap and the division on the object. So that looks pretty good to me. So next we have the polyagonal tool, and I just want to call out before we show that, you'll notice that some of these have black buttons over here. These are hotkeys or shortcuts for you. So if you want to switch from your mode from draw to erase, you can hit the E on your key and then all of a sudden it's erasing rather than drawing. Snap to grid is S. If you want to switch from rough mode out of rough mode, that's up arrow plus R. And then down here we have bracket, which changes the number of sides on our polygonal tool. So here you can see on the polygonal tool, and you can draw to point or edge with it. So I'm going to leave it on edge. And then if I draw a tool here, so we can see a hexagon, which looks great. And maybe I want to make a triangle next, so I can just bracket down. And now I'm making triangles instead. And if you go all the way to a 1, that's how you're going to make circular rooms. So you can do something like that. Next, we have the path tool, and this lets us make different shaped pathways. You can set it to draw erase, you can snap or leave it off snap, and you can rough them up again. So if you want more of like that kind of tunnel, natural tunnel look, this is a great way to do that. And you can set the radius of it. So I just currently have it set to 20. So what you can do with this tool is you click to set points, and then when you want to end the path, you hit double click. Starting with it here, I could go something like this, up and over, and then maybe in like that. And if I want to end it, I double click, and now I have this pathway like that. And I can just show you if you want to make like a rough tunnel, perhaps it looks, something like that. And then I rough it up. Bam, now I have this kind of natural cavern-like looking snaking pathway. Next, we have the polyagonal tool. So this lets you make weird shaped rooms or anything like that. So you could start with it. I'm going to set it to snap. So maybe I want to go up, and then I want to go over and back like that. And now I have kind of this weird shaped room, and I can double click to end it. And you can, of course, this might be useful for making weird kind of cavern like rooms if you want to turn on your rough mode and end it, and then you get something sort of weird like that. So next up we have the wall tool. This lets us draw walls into our already existing rooms. Click through, double click to end your wall, and you'll get something like that. Which can make some nice kind of divisions within your space. If you want to use the wall tool outside of an existing space, you will get the cross hatching, so just be aware of that. It's not something I would particularly do. Next, we have the select tool, and this is going to work similar to the polygon tool, where you start by selecting and you can cover as much as you'd like, and then double click it to end. And then you can either copy this or cut it. I'll just cut it out, and then we can save things to our clipboard to be reused later. So I could click save, and then now I have this and I can pull it out later, and then I could put it wherever I wanted and hit OK. So that can be useful if you have something like hexagons that you want to run quickly. You can drop a bunch down. Maybe you're looking to join them together, and that will just save you some time if you have some sort of kind of uniform case that you might need, a repeated tool for. Next, we have the door tool. So you can create doors. There are different variants that you can pick, and you can make double doors. You can make single doors. For the stair tool, you have some options. Again, you can snap it. You can set the number of steps per cell. So maybe we up that to 5. And how you use the stair tool is you start on one point, drag it out to how wide you want it to be. So maybe it's a 10-foot wide stair or 20-foot wide stair, depending on your square size. And then you can drag it out however far you'd like it to be. That one looks maybe a little bit too busy for me. So maybe I'll drop it down to 3 and try something like that. That looks a little bit better. You could, of course, add stairs into an existing space like that. Last thing to note about the stairs and doors is they're actually saved on your images layer. So if you toggle that off or on, you'll see that those stairways and doors are being captured on the image layer. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to manipulate them or having a hard time figuring out why they aren't, changing if you were to shut off your dungeon layer. Lastly, we have the text tool. So you can type on this. You can change your font over here on the right. You can type in the text there, change the size, the color. So maybe I just want to label the room number. So I'll label it 1. The easiest way, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to move this around, but one of the easier ways I found to do it is if you select on it and just use your arrow keys, you can move it around and position it wherever you'd like. So if you want it in the center, great. So that covers the majority of the functionality of the tool. I'm going to go ahead and do a fun little challenge. I'm going to try to make a map in 5 minutes. I will stop at the 5-minute mark and I'll come back and I'll show you what I've got. And that'll help show you how easy and how quick it is to make maps once you have a little bit of a idea on how to use the software. So let's go ahead and do a little 5-minute map challenge. Okay, I'm back after 5 minutes. This is what I was able to get done. Overall, not too bad. We have a single level dungeon here with a couple of different rooms. We got some couple different side shaped rooms. So we have, in this case, a pentagon. We got the circular room. We have this sort of weird kind of natural cavern. Maybe some creature, some burrowing creature has kind of dug into this dungeon here. We've added a little bit of rubble effect to kind of simulate that. I added some secret doors as well and some different statues. So that's as far as I was able to get in 5 minutes. Ideally, I'd like to add some numbers here to key up the different rooms so I can, maybe build out the dungeon. But for 5 minutes, I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty quick. And, you can take more time as you'd like, but it's just a really nice software to build maps quickly. If you have dungeon you're prepping, or maybe you need to make a small dungeon for a hex in your sandbox or something like that, it's an easy way to make something quick that can be used in your game. The last thing I want to show is how to save and export your map. So I'm going to be assuming that you do not have the pro version. You are just a free user. Maybe I want to continue to expand on this map, but I just don't have time and I'm worried about it crashing or losing it. So I'd like to save it out. How we do that is you can go up here to this file up here, and you can go save as, and then it'll save it as a .ds file, which is for Dungeon Scrawl. You can save that on your local machine, wherever you'd like, give it whatever name you'd like so you remember it. And then later you can go to open a map, and maybe you want to pull something out like Earthmote Dungeon Scrawl. So this is one I did a little bit earlier, and you can have that one there. If you feel like you are done with your map and you would like to export it, what you want to do is you want to go over here to these options and you want to select the export option. And from here, you can set the area size. So maybe I don't need all that white space, and go ahead, and if you want a PDF or PNG, and then hit export. High res, I believe, is only for Pro. You can go ahead and export that and it will be available on your machine. So that's it. That is Dungeon Scrawl in its current state, starting 2025. It's a really great mapping program. Use it for free. Yes, there's a paid version that will give you access to more tools, but the free version is totally usable and I think it works great. If you're using it for the first time, leave a comment down below to let me know how you're using it and if you are enjoying it. Thanks for watching the video. Consider liking and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Check out Enchanted Nimbus, my monthly newsletter. Thanks for hopping aboard the Earthmote. I'll see you in the next one.